Alright, what's up guys, Azura here, and today we are here to take a look at another deck from the new set. This time we are taking a look at Nubas. Not surprisingly, it is Dominate again. It is just more support for the Dominate deck. This time, like the headliner unit for this deck is Shiranui Rinne, a card that was absolutely busted in the TCG. I personally have not experienced it, but I know the card was busted, and today we're here to take a look and see if the card is just as busted as it was in the TCG as it is in Zero. So without further ado, let's take a look at this list. So my list is probably a little bit different than something you would expect, but my list is a little bit more focused on like hand destruction than like a regular list would be. And as I go over this, I'll just give you like replacements for what you would play if you didn't want to play these hand destruction cards. But yeah, starter is still the same one, the one that goes to soul that gives something plus 3k and you draw one when something swings, or something you dominate swings. I think this is still just the best starter this deck has. They actually did get a new starter. I think the skill is when a grade 3 or basically when you ride a grade 3 with a dominate ability, you can call a card from your opponent's drop zone and then put a soul, call a card from opponent's drop zone and draw one. It's not terrible, but I think the little power off of this is a little bit better. I know about that starter is that starter is not GB locked, so I think pretty sure you can use it on your grade 3 ride. So you can just just trade it for a draw. But I personally think that the extra 3k from this actually does come up, so that's why I'm still playing the starter. And grade 1s, Stride Fodder. I won't go over those. The first hand rip card is this dude. So his first skill is pretty irrelevant because auto abilities don't activate in Zero when you dominate your opponent's units. So I think this skill like gives your Vanguard your opponent's Vanguard's name and race, I think, something like that. Pretty irrelevant Zero. I don't think I've ever had any situation where this would come up, but the real reason we're playing this card is its second ability. When the battle that this unit either attacked, when the battle this unit either attacked or boosted hits a van, you can put him into soul, and at the start of your opponent's next turn, they had to discard one card from their hand. So this is the first piece of additional hand hate that we're playing in this deck. This card actually serves double duty because not only is it more hand hate, it's also a way to get more soul, because this deck is actually very soul heavy now. So I do like the fact that it is a way to get extra soul as well as being more hand hate. I think even if I wouldn't playing a more like hand hate heavy list, I think I'd still consider playing a few copies of this card just because the deck really does want the extra soul. So yeah, I'm playing 3 of it because I still personally value this the scalar grade 1. When something you dominate attacks gets plus 3k. So I still personally value this just because scaling is always nice, making big numbers is always good, and that's why I'm still playing 2 of it. But yeah, I think ratios are pretty interchangeable. If you want to play my list, you can definitely try cutting down one more of the scalar for another copy of the hand hate grade 1. If not, if you don't want to play towards too heavy hand, you definitely just cut down on this guy and just play more scalar. So basically just interchange these two to your liking. And finally, the PG of choice I'm playing is the Dominate PG. So when drop zone, when the attack of a unit you dominated hits a Vanguard, you can put another copy of itself from its drop zone back to the bottom of your deck and add him back to your hand and discard one. So I think all the PGs are pretty whatever. I think the after image one is cool, like on turn 2 specifically with Bear, it's cool, I guess. I think the CCPG is kind of whatever. I don't think this deck is that CB heavy, but so I think this one's just by default the best one because none of them particularly have good secondary effects. So that's why I'm on this one. This one actually can come up, and yeah. So that's it for my grade 1s. Grade 2s, we're still playing 3 old bears. On play, choose one of your opponent's and bind them, and at the start of the turn, it goes back to their hand. It's just a way for you to deal with intercepts early if you don't want to commit, or deal with intercepts late into the game after like a Mugen Lord, etc, etc. Just a very solid card, not like anything too amazing. I definitely think this card's actually pretty cuttable, but yeah, I'm still playing because I think the situation when this card comes up, it is the only card that does what it does. So still playing 3 of that. And then next off, the second piece of hand hate that we're playing in is this guy. So his skill is when a unit you dominated attack hits, so it doesn't hit anything. It retires itself, and then it makes your opponent discard one at the start of the turn. So more hand hate here. Unfortunately, this one does not go to soul, but the condition of just needing to hit meaning you can smack it rear into a rear, so to still have discard proc is pretty nice. So playing 3 of it. Next up, we're playing 3 of the new bear, the Tamahagane Metsu. So it's skill on place. Bind the top card of your deck face down. So this effect, not only does it obviously play with its second effect of Once a turn, when students that you dominated hit attacks, you can CB1, add a face down card, a card from your bind zone that's face down to your hand and gets +5. Not only does its first effect obviously supposed to go with the second effect, but this second effect actually has an additional use now in that against gears, if they have the grade 2 card that requires you to have a bind zone to attack, because when you dominate a unit, it is technically your unit, so it will check for your bind zone. This card actually lets you dominate that 10k and actually swing with it, so a little bit of extra niche use there, but yeah, this card's basically just read CB1, get power, draw 1 basic essentially, but yeah, a little bit extra use there, which is pretty cool, and yeah, still playing for that reason. And then the new grade 2 we're playing is this guy, I think his name is Sadagetsu, I think. But his skill is, first skill is when student attacks the Vanguard, if your Vanguard's a Shiranui, it gets +2k, so solo attacker, very nice. And then GB1 once per turn, at the end of a battle that a rearguard you control attacked at the end of the battle that a unit you controlled attacked a Vanguard, you can CB1 to retire that unit and draw 1. So obviously the most applicable use to this is at the end of something that you dominated attacks a Vanguard, you can CB1. You can kill that card off and draw 1, and that's obviously nice because you retire one of your opponent's units after you're done using it, and then you draw 1. But this card can also retire your own units, and being able to retire your own units, it can actually come up against the very obvious example is Link Choker, because you can see after, like, you can have this in the back or something and have something like swing into the van, and then you can CB1 pop your own rear to draw 1 as well as retiring that rear guard circle. So that's pretty nice there. Has a little bit of dual usages there, but it's mainly used to clear out your opponent's stuff that's swinging after you dominate with them. But overall, this card is very good. It has like 3 uses. You can clear your own board, clears your opponent's board, and it's a solo attacker. So very, very good card, and definitely no reason not to play 4 of it. And see, this is the only 4 of grade 2 that I'm playing right now. So yeah. How's that for grade 2 is, oh yeah, if you don't want to play hand control, if you don't want to play such a hand control list, you just cut these for I think Fudai is a pretty good replacement. Genkai is okay too, but Genkai alt takes Soul, so there's that. You can play more of either bears. I even think Ungai is an okay card because it's a filter as well as it can make your columns like slightly bigger. So yeah, these last 3 slots, realistically, you can play whatever you want. You don't want to play these hand cards. I personally just like it because I think this is the way to force interaction out of your opponent if they choose to play around your game plan. Basically, is the way to do it. Is the way to put it. So that's why I personally play the hand cards. And finally, under triggers, heal guards or heal guards, we're still playing 3 of the old Shiranui, the Shiranui Oboro. So he's just a backup ride. Start your turn, call one of your opponent's rear guards from drop, and that dies at the end of the turn. And then on strides, dominate unit, give it +4 and have it swing. Oboro is just a backup ride, so you can definitely cut down copies of Oboro for more copies of this rare grade 3. So her skill is when a attack of a unit that you dominated hits, so it can hit anything, this unit gets +10k, so this thing hits really, really, really big numbers. Funniest example is if you Mukuro a full board, she gets +50k, so she hits 61 by herself. So that's pretty cool there. I think this card's pretty cool for stuff like that. So she's just a great that scales really big. If you personally do not care to play more backup rides, you can definitely just play more of her. I think she's actually a really good rear guard just because she hits really big numbers. But I am quite paranoid about not finding my ride, and this is one of the few decks where your backup ride is actually not a terrible backup ride to go into. Like for example, you look at something like Jet Z and Jet G. Jet G is horrendous to go into, and Jet Z is something you always want to go into. In this deck, obviously, I would like to go into Zanki, which is the new main ride for the deck, because he is better. But Oboro is not the worst thing to go into if you're forced to go into it. So that's why I'm still playing 3 of it and 2 of her. I think these two ratios are pretty interchangeable. You can max on backup rides, you can max on the rear, salt the ratios around, whatever you want. So that's those 2. And then finally, your new main ride is the Shiranui Zanki. So his skill is, at the start of your turn, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, draw 1, choose 1 card from your hand and call it. This is not up to 1 card. You have to call a card if you choose a Soul Blast to draw. Then your opponent calls 1 card from their hand at random. That is not a Guardian, basically non-heal guard, non-PG. And then at the start of their turn, that unit goes back to their hand. But if you're using this, the unit you're calling is probably dying to one of your own effects. So pretty good there. And then a skill is either on play or when your unit strides. And the skill is not GB lock. So if you ride this as your grade 3, like instantly you ride it, you will use this effect. So on ride, you choose a unit to give it plus 2k. So you can choose a unit from either side, your board or your opponent's board. If you chose one of your opponent's rear guards, you dominate it and attack with it. So basically, if your opponent committed, if you went first and your opponent committed, this card can dominate whatever unit they attack. They call down and swing at their starter, which is pretty cool. That is something you do a lot going first if your opponent commits into this card. And if not, then stride bonus is still basically just overos. Obviously less power because it's only plus 2 instead of plus 4, which actually can matter. But I think Zonki's mainly its first effect when to rip a card your opponent's hand, as well as draw you a card in the process, as well as setting your board up immediately is very, very nice. Because the obvious interaction you can do with this is you can call like the scaler during at the start of your turn, so that when you stride bonus and dominate something, you actually get the power off of that. If you're playing Genkai, you could do that as well. You can call the Genkai out of your hand. You can call on the hand dudes, and then you just swing to a rear and have it sack itself off immediately on the stride bonus. So this card is just really good. Zonki is basically just a strict upgrade to the Oboro, but Oboro again is not that much worse that you feel super bad about riding it. So yeah, so that's it for the grade 3s, and onwards to the G zone. It's very expensive, I'd say. This is a very, very expensive G zone. So I'll go over just 1 harmonics, 2 Magen Tenbus. We're still playing Magen Tenbu because sometimes if your opponent just fills up an entire board, because what the deck basically before, if you're on global, you'll know that the way you quote unquote beat this deck is by not committing anything. You want to basically clear your board out, so they have nothing to dominate. But Rinne completely fucks over that thought process now with what the deck does. So Magen Tenbu's here if your opponent plays around the Rinne on the first ride. But yeah, his skill is CB1. Oh, not you. His skill is CB1. Choose G flip. Choose your point. Your guard dominated. Gets power for 8 fits across your G zone, and then at the end you kill the unit you dominated. So he's still a pretty good option to go into. Mujin Lord is still your finisher. CB1 G flip for 8 fits across your G zone. You dominate units and you swing with them while ignoring intercept. Blah blah blah. This card is really good when your opponent's at 5. Kind of ass when your opponent is not at 5. So only 1 pair of Mujin Lords. We're playing 2 Mukuros. Realistically, only 1 will ever come up. I'm only playing 2 because I have the 1 extra slot. So this last slot can realistically be anything you want it to be. But I actually did have I think exactly 1 game where I actually wish I did have a second Mukuro to go into. So take that as you will. But Soul Blast 2, flip anything you're using face up, discard a card, dominate your opponent's Vanguard, and have a swing at swing your opponent's board, and you draw 2 and you perform drive checks. So pretty good there. He is there to wipe out boards completely. Lets you plus as well, lets you get more drive checks as well. So very, very solid card. Again, you only realistically need the 1, but I'm playing 2 as I have it. And finally, the new card in the deck is the Shiranui Rinne. So his skill is dominate. Once returned, CB1 G persona flip. Your opponent chooses 2 random cards from their hand that are non-guardians and calls them to rear. They all get plus 5k, and then dominate them, and then swing at your opponent's Vanguard 1 at a time, ignoring intercept. And then at the end of the turn, the units you call off this will go back to their hand. And then GB3, units you dominate get plus 10k and get plus a crit. So, yeah, this card is very good. This card is often your first ride now. If you play Rinne along with the hand hit cards, you can basically rip like 4 cards from your opponent's hand in 1 turn, while still doing a bunch of damage to them, which is actually really, really nice. And then the GB3 just makes the card absolutely insane on second stride onwards. If you didn't try into this first stride, second stride onwards, this card basically just makes so their opponent's at 4, and you and you use Rinne, and if cards are called called out off of Rinne's effect, they get guard check twice from 4. If they end up getting called on like 11k bases or bigger, those things will swing for PG checks from 4, which is actually insane. Yeah, this card is really good. And initially, I thought this card was pretty whatever. But after playing with it, the Rinne is definitely a very, very, very good card. It's absolutely a 4 in my opinion. Very, very strong card. And then the one card that I skipped over was the Drachma, the Zeroth Dragon for Dragon Empire. On play, CB2, retire and bind all of your opponent's units, Vanguard included. Then they choose a card from their hand with the highest grade and ride it. And then at the start of the turn, they discard 2. Because of the way I formatted this deck to play, where it tries to basically hand rip as much cards out of your opponent as possible, draining them of resources. Because unlike the old deck where you basically just unga bunga hit face, get them to 5 and moving as fast as possible, With this deck, you can actually afford to play really slow, and then basically play for like a hand destruction, board control kind of game plan. And then since you crippled them so hard already after doing that, you can just basically turn Drachma into a win con instead of Mugen Lord. And obviously Mugen Lord will come up, will come up your points at 5. You push them really fast. You can still Mugen Lord for game because Mugen is still a very threatening card. But with the way of how I built the deck, by playing all these hand hate cards along with Rinne also being a hand hate card, because obviously a combo you can do is Rinne with the Sadagetsu. You call stuff to the back and then you dominate them after they're attacking. You kill them so they don't go back to their hand. And then you can also just do stuff like stride bonus, kill a front row, and then you call something to the front row and then just swing into it so that it doesn't go back to their hand. So yeah, this deck actually just has like multiple ways to play now. I personally like playing the deck like this just because a lot of decks, if you like give them CB or hit them too hard, you know, when you go first, like you just kind of can't keep up with them because you know, they hit you faster, they hit you harder. Especially if you went first, you're probably dying on their second stride a lot of the times now. With this, you can like play a little bit slower. You can maybe damage die a bit if you feel like you're really gonna die, and then you can just slowly rip apart their hand, and you can get the third stride. Drachma is a very solid, still a very solid win con for this deck as well. So yeah, but that is for the deck profile part of this video. So I will see you guys at some for some games with this deck. So I will see you guys there. So for our first game, we are playing against Novas. So, little spoilers, this game was an absolute blowout. But I think this game just goes to show how absolutely disgusting hand dominate and hand destruction actually be. Because you know, if you just rip every card out of your opponent's hand, they kind of can't play the game. But I think that this strategy would be even more efficient if we didn't have a bunch of decks running around the meta that stride for free half the time. Main example being Jet Z. But stuff like Lure can also try for free. But yeah, early game of this deck, I'm just gonna skip through most of this because the early game for this deck is really just swing pass. A lot of these cards you want to be holding for your first stride. Like you see, like my entire hand here, everything here I want to hold for first stride. So this deck really does want to commit as little as possible in the early game. But yeah, so I was quickly skip through the beginning. You know, there's really not, the deck really doesn't do a whole lot on first stride. So yeah, I got hit for some damage. I think I healed out too. But here, yeah, here you see Zonki's on ride. That this works. My opponent put out 2 rears, so dominate 3, kill the 1 because I don't want to do that booster. And then here we go with Rinne. And yeah, and now we get to see what happens to his hand. So you see, my opponent has a good, healthy 7 cards in hand, and it's about to all disappear. So call down that guy, call down that guy. Now we use the Rinne. We rip 2 cards out of his hand. Not the best things here. Your main targets you want to rip out of his hand, with this stuff. A lot of times it's stride fodder, especially against decks that can't stride for free. Obviously pieces are nice too, but yeah. Here we rip 2 cards out of their hand. We rip the 2 and the 1 at the 0. I think the 0 I end up yoinking out of his hand after I bounce back to his hand after I have to ride the original bear. So he heals. That's whatever. I honestly don't care because at this point my game, I was thinking, oh, Chrome's gonna cripple you completely this game instead. I don't really care if you heal. So here, that's 1, that's 2. That's 2 cards out of his hand. 0 is obviously gonna whiff, but it's still gonna be on the board for me to swing into if I don't want it on the board anymore. And here I just whatchamacallit, I just do that, give power wherever I just want to draw off that more than anything. Well, here optimally you would have had a what's his face, the Sadagetsu here instead of an extra CB to actually pop the grade 2 as well. But here I couldn't actually do that because I didn't have I didn't have CB and I didn't have the card, so I just bared it back to the 1 and intercept. And here I swing with the grade 1 booster as well. So here my opponent gets the 2 back to his hand, but he lost the 0, the starter, because against Novas obviously you want to get rid of the boosters. Here that goes to Soul, and now he gets his grade 2 back, but now he loses 3 cards out of his hand at start of his turn. So he has 6 cards. He started a turn with 7 cards, I think. He lost 1 after I called it off already and killed it, and now he's ditched 3 more cards out of his hand. So 1, 2, and 3. So here my opponent is super crippled. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. He does whatever he does. He goes to for this thing. Cool, whatever. I don't really care. Yeah. So here, no, I guess I'll show off the Zanki's he kills on booster, whatever. I take 2 damage. Cool. Here I have to show. Here's time to show off whatchamacallit, Zanki's startup turn effect. It's actually really good actually. So here, start of my turn. Skill Soul Blast 1 to just draw 1. So realistically, you can look at this card, a Soul Blast 1, draw 1, which is and they still really good because whatchamacallit, because you know, a draw is always nice. And here, this is the other thing that Zanki and Rinne are really good for, is getting hand knowledge out of your opponent. So here, if you know, Zanki is supposed to rip a card out of your opponent's hand, right? So it's supposed to rip a card out of your opponent's hand to a whatchamacallit, to a call down. But here, because Zanki and Rinne both cannot call guards out of your opponent's hand, because he had a 2-card hand and I couldn't call anything out of his hand, that basically tells me that he has 2 more guards in his hand here. So the other thing this card's really good for is getting hand knowledge on your opponent. Because you know, even if you can't call the card, knowing that the hand is all guards is still a very beneficial thing for the player to know. So yeah, here, so basically here I know that he has 2 guards in his hand, and he basically doesn't have playable, doesn't have strike unless he top decks anything. So here I was like, oh, Colm is free to push here, push for 3 damage. Unfortunately, I drew the discard guy the start of my turn, or he drew the discard guy for the Mukuro's effect, so I couldn't force him to discard 1 here. Otherwise, I could have made him ditch 1 of those guards out of his hand here. But here we just push him to 5, knowing that he has no stride fodder, no guards, and just a bunch of guards in his hand. So we are absolutely in no danger of dying to anything at all, even if he does top deck stride fodder. Yeah, he doesn't. Top deck's a grade 2, because obviously we know there's 2 guards in his hand. So he swings in the rear and swings at Van, and honestly, cool, whatever. He hits triggers. I do not care. He can do whatever he wants here. I'm surprised he even gave me a damage. I guess it doesn't really matter too much because he loses the game anyways. But here we get to see that after crippling the opponent a bunch of times, Drachma is actually just an auto win here. Yeah, he swings at rear. Swings at rear, deals me 2 damage, and I do have the the Zanki needed for the ultimate stride, because with ultimate stride you do need to discard same name as your Vanguard. So here, I figured, you know, anything here is game, so I might as well go for the flashy play, right? So here you go into the Drachma. We dominate. I actually don't know why it swings in this exact order, but I actually don't know why it's in this order specifically. Because whenever you dominate something and then use Drachma, I know why the unit is not retired, because the unit is yours technically. But I actually don't know why the order is like that, where it chooses its unit and then Drachma prompts as well. So you know, it's pretty weird there that that's the order. But here it's just game. Even if you hypothetically triple 6 healed here, the grade 2 that I bounced would go back to his hand, and then Drachma would make him discard it immediately, so it didn't matter, they went back to his hand. But he would have been stuck on a grade 1, and then you can't do anything from there anyway. So that's for game 1. Again, like I said, that game was just an example of a blowout, and realistically, how you want every game to be going, you want to just yoink their entire hand, kill a bunch of rears, and then Drachma them for game to basically, because at that point they're super crippled, they're probably just going to die to the Drachma, because even if they actually live the Drachma turn, they can't do anything. And then even though your entire deck is basically turned off now because you went for ultimate stride, if you had if you had more Zonkis to re-ride, you can actually just use the on place effect to dominate the swing. But it doesn't come up very often, because after the drag one, they should have lost the game anyway. So yeah. And then for the next game, we will be playing as Royal Paladin. This is a deck that I did not actually probably won't be maybe covering super late into the season, into the month. But this is definitely nothing I plan on covering myself. So I guess it's pretty good that my opponent is playing it here. But I think the rolls are actually pretty mediocre, honestly speaking. I don't think they're that particularly good. I think they've definitely fallen from grace from what they once were. But yeah, Royals, again, we go second here, so obviously it's very nice that we're going second in both of these games. But this deck does have plays going first, because the deck has the Rinne strike bonus, which is really nice. So again here, early games don't really do a whole lot, swing pass, swing pass. But against Royals, obviously Royals will try to commit against you because the deck plays really aggressively. I think my opponent here actually tri-laned me on the first turn, which is kind of annoying because obviously the deck does not want to commit early, but Bear can definitely help mitigate that because you can just you can bounce the card back to your hand just to get it back. But the upside of the quote-unquote upside of that now is that if the cards go back to their hand from I'm thinking here. The cards go back to the hand with Bear, and then they don't call it down. Those cards can get yoinked out of your hand, their hand with the Rinne or the Rinne or Zanki. And here my opponent actually crits me, and but I heal down, so I realistically only took 2 damage here. That's really nice, really good. We don't go to 3 or go to 4 here. Here I ride the Metsu, and I guess I didn't want to use the Bear here, huh? Or rather, I remember, no, I needed to ditch the Bear as a cost to search the Zanki because again, even though Oboro is the quote unquote still quote unquote solid ride, I'd still rather be on Zanki as opposed to Oboro. So here we'll ditch the Bear to search, use Trifighter to search for the thing. We just kill the both Bears and call it a day. My opponent's hand is very low here anyways. 2 cards in hand, not a whole lot to play with. And he rides the new Alt Mile. I actually don't think this new Alt Mile is a very good ride per se, especially later in the game. But I guess this new Alt Mile is a very good go first ride because you can ride it and call it 2 from your deck and then immediately recycle a card, which is pretty cool there. But I think overall as a ride, I think Heavenly Decree is a better ride than this Alt Mile specifically. And it's really nice that this Lever Rot is not tied to GB, so you can actually use the Lever Rot here, which is kind of annoying. He is just gonna call a whole board for free, and he scales here too. But I do hit defensive, so he does not. The band's attack not hit unless he plays for that 1 pass here. And I think he just ended up swinging rear into my band, and then going band into rear. Yeah. Guess he just swings the band into rear, rips a heal. They wouldn't have healed anyway, so it didn't really matter. And here we actually start the game off pretty poorly. We're at 4 already before we even ride up to 3. But here we'll get to see the power of hand rip dominate. We get to rip his entire hand here, so dominate that. Very important here that you actually don't dominate the Lever Rot, because if you dominate the Lever Rot, you can't actually swing with it because your Vanguard does not have Brave. Yeah, and since his entire board is full, I don't really see a point in going for Rinne here, so I just go for what's his face, Mugen Tenbu, try to clean his board up a bit. Just clean up the stuff that he does have on his board. So yeah, CB1 will take his grade 2, we'll swing it at the resist booster. As we are definitely not swinging at face here. And the reason I held the grade 2 guy in my hand is because I actually wanted to keep a intercept here, because otherwise I would have no intercept on my board at all whatsoever. So here we do this. We still have to rip 1 extra card of his hand because of the grade 1. We rip 1 card of his hand here, and then Mugen Tenbu goes into face. As we still want to do our drive checks here bare minimum. We hit a draw, so another grade 2 is very nice. But here, yep. So that was first try. That was first. Basically the how you choose between Rinne and Mugen Tenbu first try is basically how full is your opponent's board, how much can you empty it, and can you actually rip those cards out of their hand. After you kill the cards out of their hand after you call them, and here that was a situation where I actually couldn't, and right here I'd rather just get rid of a booster with the whatchamacallit, with the what's his face, with the Mugen Tenbu instead. So he gets his booster back, which kind of sucks for me, but I think we're at a pretty solid point where we're actually like not too scared of dying to anything here. So he does his cool little turn here, does his brave things, plus some triggers. Extends and rips. I think that was rip 3 cards out of my hand, I think. So here we go. You just yeah. So there, if your opponent's a full board, they obviously can't call anything. Like I forgot to mention that Zanki and Rinne both call it the open rear circle, so you can't force your opponent to call over something. So here, I think the very obvious stride here is going to be Mukuro. I don't think there's any reason for me going to anything else here. Yeah, go to Mukuro. And just clean up his entire board. Use a great deal force him to discard another card out of his hand. It does dominate whatever, doesn't really matter too much because we're gonna swing to everything anyways with the Mukuro. And that actually does not matter where the power went, there it went. Soul Blast 2, flips anything. Usually it's Harmonic, ditch whatever. Dominate his van, and then swing. And then swing, draw 2. And you get 2 drive checks here, so that's really nice. Bam, loses the entire board, loses 1 extra card out of his hand as well. And here we just call down 3 cards, call the solo attacker, make a column with the booster and the bear. And then we go face and hope he does not hit defensive first damage, and he does not here, as you will see. So yeah, he does not hit defensive there. No defensive here either. And here you'll see that he loses exactly his entire hand because Vanguard will be asking for 1 check. And will check a card out of his hand. Heal 2, very very nice. Ask for a PG as well. So here he uses 1 card of his hand, and then at the start of the turn, the one forced discard, you'll still here, gets rid of his stride fodder. So he actually cannot stride here, as he did not top deck more stride fodder. So here he does absolutely nothing. And yeah, he can't do anything here because he whatchamacallit, you know, he has to stride, the 1 stride fodder he had in his hand got ripped out of his hand from the grade 2. So here he has to draw and kill my mirrors. And I want to actually just scoop here. He actually kind of broke my game because if you like scoop and stuff, tries to do stuff like that while your points before action might like freeze your game a bit. But here, yeah, I had to reset my game here, but you clearly see that I won the game there. There was really no way my opponent was living that turn. But there, I would have gone for Drachma again to nuke his van. I ripped 1 card out of his hand, nuke his van, and they can ride the PG in his hand. So yeah, that's it for the gameplay for this deck. So you can see here, I think hand dominate is a very nice way to go about the deck, at least in my opinion. Obviously, again, like I said, you can play a more like traditional dominate kind of gameplay where you just kind of hit their face a bit and rush and try to kill them as fast as possible. But I think this gives a nice variation to the deck and makes the deck a little bit less linear and less prone to losing to its counters. Main counters being like Hari and stuff, or actually clears his own board out. And I think playing a more hand control style can definitely make those harder matchups easier while still maintaining a very relatively solid matchup against other decks. So yeah, so that's it for this deck profile. Like and subscribe to the good stuff. Tell me what you think about this deck down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.